This is a sensitive question for some, so you don't have to answer it. You don't have to answer anything. Wrestling 782 says, how much does Paul Heyman owe you?
Not a penny.
Not a penny?
Not a penny. I left before the end. Me and, Scotty and I are good friends, and I went to WCW with him. John and I was home hurt, and John and I could not tag. It wasn't going to, there's no way that we were going to tag together. And I talked to Paulie, and Paulie spent, years pushing me and John. And Perry, I spent too much money on you guys. You're not breaking up. And I kept, no, and we got into an argument, and Paul, and I said, half-assedly, well, Paulie, then maybe I'm going to have to look somewhere else. And Paulie, not wanting me to fucking get over on him, yells in front of all the boys, well, if you want to fucking leave, leave. And so that's when Sabu went right up to him and goes, what the fuck, he's gone now, thanks, Paul. But I wish I didn't go, but John and I could not function together. And I understand Paulie's point, because any team that was available, he paid them to put us over.
Yeah.
And he did it for a couple of years. So I understand his point. There was kind of a no-win situation.
I was going to do our first, probably only game, but just because you mentioned, the leaving ECW, I'll follow up with this and then I'll go back to the game. But who was your man in WCW who recommended you?
Scotty, Raven.
Yeah.
And Raven told Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor called me and wanted the tape, which was just them fucking with me because they could see the ECW TV.
Oh, they wanted an audition tape from you.
So I sent it to him, thinking nothing's going to come from it. On that tape, I dropped an elbow on Terry Gordy off of the scaffolding, and Terry Taylor goes, and that's why I hired you. And I would always tell him, fuck, you should have hired the guy that laid there, not me. All I did was fall. But Scotty set it up with Terry, and I had the gig because they were letting Scotty do his own guys.
Yeah.
But he still, because sometimes the office is a little fucky, they made me jump through the hoops to send in the tape in and shit. Yeah. And then they announced on their Mike Tenay's hotline or whatever that I was coming there before they told me.
Oh, really?
So Paulie's calling me screaming that he wants me to sign a contract instead of go there. And I didn't know what was going on, and then like an hour later they brought me down there to sign it.
Did you use that in contract negotiations? Because you're like, hey, Tenay's already announced me.
No, Paulie, what
I'm sorry, I mean contract negotiations with WCW, not ECW.
No. When I went down there and I had the job. That was it. Yeah. And they offered me what they offered me, and it was pretty much non-negotiable. This was a step up, for sure in their eyes. So, and then they gave me a 1-year deal to see how it goes type bullshit, And I started at $100,000, which was a lot of money. I don't care who you are, and that lasted about a month. And Eric Bischoff gave me a $25,000 raise because they liked what they had of me. I did all the, anytime you had a tryout in WCW when I was there, you worked with me. And all the dark night where they had to do that, all the TV segments that were 2 segments, that was mine because then they knew I would be able to do it, keep the stuff going in the match, So you
someone like who tests the attitude of a new person?
Yeah, just and I don't know. I'd come back and Terry would meet me because everywhere I'd have somebody working with me on the tryout, and then I'd have to get ready for Nitro, and because I was on every show the time I was there, And Terry would go, "How was it? How was he?" And I'd tell him what I thought, which is kind of a shitty spot because you don't want to be a guy who somebody doesn't get a job.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell them that I thought somebody was all right when they weren't.
But you give the thumbs up, thumbs down, and they take your
and then Terry would tell me what he thinks, and see if we can get a. He was a pretty good boss, man, Terry. That was a really shitty situation, Eric was If it was a relationship, he'd be described as abusive, you know, because the way he talked to all them guys, agents and shit, you know. So, but a couple of times Terry wanted me to do something, and I thought I had a better idea, and I talked to him about it, and he went with my idea. Some of the guys that don't matter, they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's their idea, and that's it.
Do you remember in the early days when you've got someone new that you're wrestling? Do you remember anybody who your word got them the job? That you can say, because of me, I got him a good match.
I got Mikey Whitworth a job at WCW. I don't think I've ever vouched for anybody.
No, but I mean, like, if you and Terry, you have a match with the guy and you say that guy was a good guy.
Oh no, at that time, they had this running joke going. They would take the enhancement guy I was working with and pull him to the side and tell him shit like, Perry's really old school. You really have to make him work for shit out there. And knowing I'd go berserk, and I'd come through the back and Vince and Gary Briscoe be laughing and shit, and all they do is get somebody beat up for nothing. But yeah, so no, them matches was never like, yeah, they were always a nightmare because they did it every fucking time.
What you should have just like whispered to him. Not I'm Eddie Gilbert, nice to meet you, but that kind of thing. Don't worry, you're safe, kind of thing. Or
when Dean and I would, I guess I'm a kind of domineering, maybe personalities. And when Dean and I was a tag team there, Dean would always talk to the guys we were working with, and I found out later that he would tell them, well, I'll start, we'll work around a little bit, I'm gonna tag Perry in, he's gonna beat the shit out of you guys, and then he'll tag me back in. So, because Vince, like I was one of the guys Vince liked, and I felt I gave guys too much. So I always, and that's a tough, like I didn't feel I did. They had another running joke every night. JR would go, Perry, what the fuck, you're too stiff, you're hurting these guys. The next night Vince would go, Perry, you gotta lay it in, this shit is, and it was back and forth,